Welcome everybody back to another episode of Midweek Meetings. Midweek Meetings episode 17. I am KnockdownNico with the camera alongside my co-host Pr3ssix.
What's up?
Hey, he is back after going on vacation. So we got the full duo back today. We're going to be going over some games from last week. Then we're going to move into some headlines, predictions for week 17. Even though week 16 hasn't finished up, it's Christmas Eve tomorrow. It's going to be busy, so we're doing this episode one day early. And as of right now, the Saints-Packers game has not started yet, but the Packers should win this game easily, so there's no really questions about that. After, though, our predictions, we're going to move on to our auto lock, some fantasy football, and then I do have a little fun question to end off today's episode. But let's start out with the games. The first one I want to recap is, Michael Penix, and the irony is just so troll. I started last week's episode, not even 5 minutes after I ended it, they announced Penix was starting. So he starts against the Giants, and he played pretty well, but it was against the Giants.
Yeah, Michael Penix had himself a pretty good game. You look at his stat line, it's not too impressive, just over 200 yards and an interception. But when you watch the game back, that interception, that just proves why interceptions should not be a QB stat. Kyle Pitts literally gave the ball to the defenders, so not really on Penix there. Overall, he played a pretty clean game. That was in his control for the most part. And I think the Falcons definitely have something to look forward to going into next season. Right now they are the leaders of the NFC South as of right now. So if they win out, they are sitting in that 4th seed in the playoff spot. So Michael Penix is kind of getting thrown into a big role here at the end of the season, and he has the opportunity possibly to lead his team in the playoffs, which is pretty crazy for a rookie. And with only if they make the playoffs, he's only got 3 games of experience. So pretty crazy situation in Atlanta. I think it was the right move to start Penix. Kirk wasn't really doing much, so you might as well give the team a little bit of a spark, see if they can get something going. And Penix showed that he can compete, I guess. So yeah, should be interesting to see.
Everyone was questioning why they took Penix with whatever pick they had, 8th pick, I think, last year. Everyone was like, this is a dumb move. Why would they do that? And look, now this move is looking like a genius move because Kirk wasn't playing good. They decided to give Penix the start, and he played solid. That interception was not on him. That interception was on Kyle Pitts not knowing how to catch a football. But, he was able to move the offense. Obviously, they scored 34 points. Well, they scored 27 points on offense. They had 2 defensive touchdowns. They scored, 24 points on offense. Solid. We'll have to see. The struggle right now for the Falcons, even with Kirkin, was they weren't getting touchdown passes. So we'll have to see if he's able to. But they're sitting atop the NFC East, or the NFC South, like you said. We're gonna go over some playoff scenarios and stuff later on in this episode. But this is just, he played good. We'll see if it continues. He's got a good cast surrounding him, so I wouldn't say it's going to be easy, but there's potential Atlanta squeaks into the playoffs and wins the division. But for the Giants, I guess you can celebrate they got the number 1 overall pick. Who did they take, though? Will be the question if they get the number 1 overall pick. Do they take, Cam Ward? Do they roll the dice on Shedeur Sanders? Do they take Travis Hunter? That's going to be the decision for the Giants. It was a bad game. Outside of that pretty nice catch by Tyrone Tracy, that game was just not it. And I don't know if you saw that clip of Evan Neal trying to block I don't remember who it was, but that block attempt sums up the Giants' season. Next game, I want to go over Jonathan Taylor legacy game versus the Titans, but the Titans almost came back and won this game as well.
Yeah, Jonathan Taylor saved my fantasy season in one league, and I had him in two leagues. So, the 200 plus yards and three touchdowns from him was huge. You know, I think it made it worth having Jonathan Taylor on my team all year because he really hadn't done much up until that game, but came in clutch for the second week of the playoffs. But yeah, crazy game from him, especially against the Titans team who's kind of known for their run defense. It's kind of just a really solid performance overall from him. And without him, they definitely 100% do not win that game. So big game from Jonathan Taylor, and the Colts are still alive technically in the playoff run. So if they want to make the playoffs, they're gonna need Jonathan Taylor to play like that probably every game. We know how inconsistent Anthony Richardson is, and they're gonna have to rely on Jonathan Taylor down the stretch.
Yeah, Anthony Richardson only threw 11 passes this game. I was a little curious, on why. Like, there was a stretch in like that third quarter, beginning of the fourth quarter, where Jonathan Taylor like wasn't playing. They had Trey Sermon and the Tyler Goodson in taking carries, and then all of a sudden the Titans just come back and they're within like 7. And it's like, oh, Jonathan Taylor is to come back in. So, I mean, I guess I was a little curious on why they took him out. I guess because it was so, the lead was so big at that point. But the Titans almost came back, which is kind of insane because, I mean, they were down so much at the beginning of that game and everything. So that was insane. But yeah, I think it was a career high in carries for Jonathan Taylor. It was definitely a career high in yards and touchdowns. So that was just insane. And I mean, the Titans, the stat line from the Colts is insane. 50 carries for 335 yards, and they're averaging 6.7 yards a carry, which is ridiculous. Ridiculous. So, I mean, we'll see if Jonathan Taylor is able to back it up next week. Who do they play next week? They play the Giants next week. Bijan had just under 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. So, it might be looking like another big game for Jonathan Taylor potentially next week. But, I mean, this game shouldn't have gotten close. It did get close, which is scary for the Colts defense, especially if they somehow squeeze their way into the playoffs, which I don't think they will. But yeah, I mean, this was all Jonathan Taylor. The last game we're going to recap is the Commanders' comeback win versus the Eagles.
Yeah, this was kind of a crazy game. Jalen Hurts left this game with a concussion, which was pretty significant, I think, in the grand scheme of things in this game. Loud turnovers, and just a crazy game overall. But it's a big win for the Commanders. I think it kind of solidifies their playoff spot for the most part. They just have to win one of their next 2, and they're in, I'm pretty sure. And yeah, I think it shows maybe how valuable Jalen Hurts is to this Eagles offense, or how Kenny Pickett is not an NFL starting caliber QB, but one or the other. I think the Eagles will be fine down the stretch if they can get Jalen Hurts back for the end of the season. And the Commanders, I don't know. I don't know how to feel about the Commanders. They're kind of inconsistent in my opinion, and they're pretty streaky. So we'll see what they end up doing here in the playoffs.
I'm not going to say he has, but I think, Jane Daniels almost solidifies getting the Rookie of the Year, especially after this performance. Only time will tell, but I mean, this game was not looking good. It was, it was close at half, but the Eagles scored 21 in the first. The big thing though in this game was they were able to stop Saquon Barkley in the second half. I think in the second half he had like 12 carries for 26 yards or something. Like it was a really, really low amount of yards, for the amount of carries he had in that second half, especially for how he was in that first quarter and that first half, which was absolutely, this game was insane. The Eagles, they gave up 22 points in the in the fourth quarter alone, which, their defense has been solid. I mean, they forced 3 turnovers, or no, they forced 5 turnovers this game, 3 fumbles. They picked off Jane Daniels twice, and they still lost this game. So, I mean, you could say partially this game was, lost when Jalen Hurts got hurt, but I mean, you feel like 33 points should be enough to get your team a win, which, even though Kenny Pickett didn't play the best, he was still able to move the ball downfield for them to, get some field goals and stuff. But I kind of put this loss on the Eagles defense. Your team scores 33 points, no defensive touchdowns. You have 5 takeaways, and you somehow still lose the game. I kind of see this on the Eagles, but the Commanders, I don't know. The Commanders, we'll see what version of the Commanders we get, come playoff time. They play the Falcons this weekend, who they looked good, but then again, they played the Giants last week. So, and they're riding a 3-game winning streak right now where they, aside of that New Orleans game, they put up 42 against Tennessee, who you could say is a solid defense, even though they're not, really a good football team overall. And they put up 36 against the Eagles, who have a pretty good defense as well. So we will have to see what Jane Daniels does. That game was absolutely bonkers, though. The fact that they came back from that is crazy. And Jane Daniels, Jonathan Taylor, helped me win $1,200 in a fantasy thing, so that's something else as well. Those are going to be the games we are going to recap this week. I'm going to move on to our headlines, and I'm not going to lie, maybe it's because, it's early in the week and stuff, but there weren't really too many, super, big headlines. The first one we're going to go over is Tank Dell injury, dislocated kneecap, and an ACL injury. I think it was a tear. Either way, he's out for the year. It was just a big loss for the Texans as well.
Yeah, huge loss for the Texans. They were already kind of suffering with injuries this whole season, and this kind of just sums up their season. But I'm not sure if you saw this or not, but in the wake of the Tank Dell injury, the Texans actually claimed Deontay Johnson off of waivers. So the guy who has been on 2 teams, now 3 this season, is coming to the Texans and hopefully going to take some pressure off of Nico Collins for the rest of the season. We'll see how that pans out. But yeah, they're definitely going to miss Tank Dell in Houston for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I mean, that was a pretty bad injury. It was bad. It definitely could have been worse the way it looked. So, hopefully he gets better soon. It's just been a unlucky couple of years to start his career for Tank Dell. I think he broke his leg last year. And then I think he came back and had another, he tore his ACL when he came back from that as well. So, yeah, just rough going for Tank Dell. But, yeah, like you said, they did claim Deontay Johnson off waivers. We'll see if he plays this week. They play on Wednesday on Christmas Day, so it's a real short week. So we'll see if he plays or not. But if he doesn't, John Mechie is back. They do have Robert Woods. I'm going to not expect, but I feel like Dalton Schultz is going to start getting more targets as well, just because, they're down 2 big wide receivers, and Mechie is coming back from a shoulder injury that kept him out. I think it was for a couple weeks. So this offense, we'll have to see what this offense looks like come, Wednesday, I guess, when they play. I think they play the Ravens. So we'll have to see what this offense comes, Deontay Johnson revenge game, if he plays, potentially. Who knows? But yeah, tough loss for the Texans. A very unfortunate injury for Tank Dell as well. All right, our next one, we spoke on this a tiny bit in our recap, but Jalen Hurts concussion.
Yeah, I feel like the main story for this is just when he will come back, because the Eagles are a way better team on when Jalen Hurts is on the field. And so I imagine, with the loss to the Commanders, they're kind of on the outside looking in for that first seed in the NFC. So I'd imagine they probably play it safe. Uh, I imagine he misses next week, if not the week after. Even if he misses both those games, I mean, they're still only at what,
They'd be at
4 losses or something on the season, 4 or 5. I'm not sure what the
yeah, they'd
record
be
is right
at
now.
5. They're 12-3 right now.
Yes, so I mean, 12-5, not a terrible place to end, and that would, at minimum, probably drop them to the what, I guess maybe second seed, even if they win that division. So I think the Eagles are still in a pretty good spot. Um, Tough injury for Jalen Hurts at the end of the year. Hopefully, it doesn't affect his play much. This Eagles team is probably the best roster they've had since Sirianni's been there. So uh, they'll probably make a run if they can get Hurts healthy, and they should have be a team to look out for in the playoffs.
Yeah, we'll see how, like you said, it's just going to depend on how severe that concussion is. I saw the hit and stuff. I don't know how, like, it didn't seem like it's a super bad concussion. It didn't seem like, he was going to be out of that game at all potentially, but then again, he was. So it's just going to be a waiting game, like you said. We'll have to see how they go. Also, this says Kenny Pickett is dealing with a rib injury apparently as well. So, if Hurts doesn't play, they're going to be, and for some reason, if Pickett doesn't play, they're going to have Tanner McKee under center. So that's going to be something. But yeah, we'll see if he's out this week. They play on Sunday. I think their game got flexed to the 1 o'clock thing this week. I think I saw that. It's either it got flexed. I don't remember if it was to the 1 or to the 4 o'clock games, but no, it was to the 1 o'clock game. So, we'll just have to see how it goes with Jalen Hurts. But, it's a big loss for the Eagles. I mean, we saw in that game, although I don't really think that was, the offense's fault. They did put up 33 points, but yeah, they need him back for the playoffs, or else I don't think this team is going to make it past that first game if he for some reason can't come back. All right, our next headline. It's not really a headline, but I want to go over some playoff scenarios. So I'm just gonna say some teams, and you're gonna give me, if they think if you think they're gonna make the playoffs or not make the playoffs, or if you want me to do, I have the ESPN playoff machine up as well. If you want me to do some magic with that as well, but first team we're gonna do is the Broncos.
Only need like one more win to get in. I'd say they make the playoffs.
You say they make the playoffs. They got a tough
Yeah.
schedule. They play Cincinnati, who they haven't been good at home, but offense is really good, and then they play Kansas City their last game. So it's going to be tough. I think if they win both their games, they're in. If they don't, I think if they win one and then they lose one, they still become a 7 seed, I want to say. Obviously, Cincinnati, which we can go over as well, they have to win all their games and have a bunch of stuff go their way to make it in.
If the Chiefs beat the Steelers, though, then the Chiefs, I think, don't they lock up the first seed if they beat the Steelers, if I'm not mistaken?
I think so, because
So
there'll be
then the
2
Chiefs wouldn't
losses
have
ahead of
anything to play
Buffalo.
for.
Yeah, so if the
Yeah.
Chiefs win, let's just do this. So the Chiefs win. Okay, so let's just say the Chiefs win week 17, and
Mm-hmm.
then let's say Baltimore beats Houston, and we're gonna say Denver beats Cincinnati, and then the Chargers beat New England in week 17. Then we're gonna go over to week 18. Houston's already locked up. That does not matter. Let's look. Let's say Baltimore beats Cleveland, and you're gonna say the Cincinnati win or tie Pittsburgh or lose.
Look, I think Cincinnati wins out here, to be honest. So I
Okay, we'll
think
keep
it's
it Bengals, and you're gonna say the Chiefs lose to the Broncos, and then
yeah, sure.
so in that, and do the Chargers beat the Raiders week 17?
Yeah.
So if it's like that, then Pittsburgh falls to the 7th seed,
Uh-huh.
Baltimore the 3rd seed, the Chargers become the 5th seed, and the Broncos become the 6th seed, and the Bengals don't make the playoffs, which would be
Yeah, so I
crazy.
think out of all the teams, so let's see. So Kansas City, Buffalo, Houston, Baltimore, Pittsburgh, they've all clinched. I
Mm-hmm.
think Chargers need one more win to clinch, so they
Yep.
should be chilling. So Denver's spot is really the only spot up for grabs, and in my opinion, Indianapolis is basically eliminated. I don't think they stand much chance in the race. Miami, they have to win out. Bengals have to win out. It's gonna be really tough for those teams to make it. If I think any team can do it, I think it's gonna be the Bengals, just because of how good their offense has been all year. But look, I think the Broncos are gonna be able to sneak in, and playoff picture should look similar to what it is right now.
Ooh, okay. So I just switched. Hear me out. If the Dolphins were to win out, they beat Cleveland and the Jets,
Mm-hmm.
and the Broncos were to lose out, the Dolphins would be the 7th seed even if Cincinnati wins out.
Yeah.
So the Dolphins have to lose one game, the Broncos have to lose 2 games, and the Bengals need to win out in order for the Bengals to make the playoffs. So Cincinnati, if they win out, they're just banking on a lot of people to lose some games.
Yeah.
We can switch over to the NFC as well. I guess there's not really too much thrown up in the air here. There's a potential Minnesota could get the 1 seed. I don't think they do though. Either way, I did some calculations earlier. I don't think Philadelphia can get the one seed, although I'll have to do a couple of things. But it's mainly going to be who wins the NFC West and the NFC South.
Yeah, if you're looking at the NFC playoff picture, the Lions at this point, if they beat Minnesota, they have that 1 seed locked up for the most part. So then Minnesota's looking at a 5 seed, and then so now you got Washington's basically in, Green Bay's basically in, and then the Rams are currently in that last wild card spot. No, I'm lying. The Rams are in. They're leading their division right now, right?
Rams are in
So
first. Yeah, they have a game up and the tiebreaker over Seattle.
so Seattle needs to win out, and they need the Rams to lose at
Mm-hmm.
least. Well, they need
They
the
need
Rams to lose out
they need
basically.
to lose. Yeah, the Rams to lose. Seattle needs to win out, and the Rams need to lose to Seattle and lose or tie. I think it is to Arizona in order for Seattle to make the playoffs.
Got it. So Seattle really doesn't have a chance of wild card anymore. They have
Mm-hmm.
to win their division.
Yeah.
I think the Bucks and the Falcons are kind of in the same spot
Mm-hmm.
there. Whoever wins that division will make playoffs. I
Atlanta
looked at
has
their schedules.
tiebreaker.
Yeah, I looked at their schedules. I think the Bucks have the easier schedule. Atlanta plays the Commanders next week, so that will be a tough
I think.
matchup
Yeah.
there. So If I had to pick one of those two, I would say the Bucks make it over Atlanta. And so then you're looking at Detroit in the 1 seed, Philly in the 2 seed. Let's see. And then we got the Rams in the 3 seed and the Bucks in the 4 seed.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the wild cards basically set. So that's
Yeah.
what I think will happen in the NFC.
In a rare scenario, it's possible if the Lions were to lose out, if the Lions were to lose out, Green Bay beats the Vikings week 17 and Philadelphia wins out, they can get the 1 seed. But that's the only way. So Philadelphia would have to beat Dallas and the Giants. The Lions would have to lose both their games, and then the Vikings would have to lose to Green Bay and then beat Detroit in week 17 for the Eagles to get the 1 seed, which would be insane. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think all three of those things are going to happen. But I think the NFC,
Vikings had the best chance at the 1 seed outside of the Lions, to be honest, because Vikings win out and Detroit loses out, then the Vikings get that, and I don't see a world where Philly there's no way Philly makes it. There's just those teams are just too good to both of them lose like that.
I think there's a way though. There's a way Green Bay can become a 7 seed, depending on if Washington wins out or not. But I think it's just gonna be, if Minnesota loses to Detroit, it's gonna be Minnesota 5, Green Bay 6, Washington 7, and then I do think the Rams and the Bucks are gonna make it as well for the West and the South of the NFC. So I feel like there's more at stake in the AFC. Like the NFC kind of just, you're just figuring out a couple who's going to win the division. Everything else is kind of set. Like no teams can overtake each other for wild card. It's just going to be, battling for seeding. Mostly Washington and Green Bay, maybe Minnesota, but the AFC's got a lot more at stake compared to the NFC, I feel like.
Yeah.
Well, that's going to be our headlines for this week. Obviously, once the games get played, we will, we'll definitely have a more solid foundation on, what needs to happen for certain teams to make the playoffs. We're going to move on to our predictions for this week. My prediction is low-key this week. We're a little rough. Obviously, Green Bay hasn't played yet, but I have them winning. So I feel like I'm probably gonna end on 9-7 this week. I cooled down since the past, couple weeks.
Yeah, if Green Bay wins tonight, I'll be at 10-6. So not a great week, but could have been worse.
100%. And we've got a bunch of games on a bunch of different days. We got 2 Christmas games this week, a Thursday night game, 3 Saturday games. So and we got some games that were flexed this week as well. So we are like completely flipped upside down for this schedule. But week 17 predictions, the first Christmas game, we have Kansas City at Pittsburgh.
I'm taking Kansas City. Somehow they never lose a game, and I don't understand why, but never happens. This will be a tough matchup for Pittsburgh anyways. They've had a really tough schedule as of late, so I don't think they're going to be able to pull this one out. Give me the Kansas City Chiefs.
I'm taking the Chiefs as well. I mean, they didn't play as good as they should have against Baltimore. I think we saw that, the game in Pittsburgh, they played better. This game is in Pittsburgh though, but the Chiefs just somehow, win these games, man. And, the thing with George Pickens is coming back for this week, so that may help, the offense. But the Chiefs have, I want to say the Chiefs have a pretty decent run game. You know, the Steelers, I mean, they had 42 and 48 yards amongst both their running backs. So, I mean, not the best, not the worst, but they just got behind in that game to where they needed to throw the ball a lot. Derrick Henry had a big game against the Steelers. The Steelers gave up 220 yards on the ground, 160 of them to Derrick Henry. Obviously, I think that's going to be a lot less than, what they're going to give up against Pacheco. But I'm worried about Mahomes dotting this team up a little bit. They only gave up 200 passing yards against Baltimore, but half of those passing yards were to Zay Flowers and Kansas City. They've got a better group of tight ends, in my opinion. And, Xavier Worthy's been really solid as of lately, especially. And, D-Hop is there, and they got Hollywood Brown back last week. I'm expecting him to have a bigger role this week than he did last week coming in from injury. So, yeah, I think the Chiefs are it's going to be a close game. Chiefs are going to voodoo magic their way into a win somehow. Our second Christmas game, we have Baltimore at Houston.
I'm taking the Baltimore Ravens. We talked about the Tank Dell injury. I think that'll be a huge loss for the Texans. And I just think this Texans team really is not as explosive and as exciting as they were last year. And they feel just kind of stale. I don't know what it is about them, but I feel like they're kind of just a mid team. They beat the bad teams, don't beat the good teams. That's kind of how I feel about the Texans. And I think the Baltimore Ravens will win this game. The Ravens looked really good against Pittsburgh, and I think we'll see the same thing here in this game. I think this game might be kind of a blowout, to be honest. Give me the Baltimore Ravens.
I'm taking the Ravens. Yeah, I mean, their offense just got a lot much worse than with Tank Dell off the field. I said this earlier. I think Dalton Schultz is going to have a little bigger of a role as well, and Nico Collins obviously is going to be the number one guy. Stroud's going to throw it to him so much, but the Texans, I mean, Mixon hasn't been as good as late. Only 57 yards against the Chiefs on 14 carries. Before that, he had, I don't even know, he averaged 1.9 yards per carry against the Dolphins in that game. So, I mean, Mixon has been struggling the past couple of games as well. This Ravens team, they gave up almost 5 yards a carry in the run game, but, I'm not expecting Joe Mixon to have a huge impact in this. This game's going to rely on CJ Stroud, throwing the ball to Nico Collins, Dalton Schultz, Deontay Johnson if he plays. It's going to be Robert Woods and John Mechie, which, yeah, I don't really like that. Plus, they got some injuries on defense as well. Will Anderson is questionable, being that this is a very short week as well. I'm not sure if Al-Shaair comes back this week or if that's next week. But, yeah, it's just they're hit heavy at in the secondary as well. So, yeah, I don't. This might be a close, just like not even a close game, but it's going to be like a sluggish game to just watch. But give me the Ravens. Or we have our Thursday night football game. We have Seattle at Chicago.
I'm taking the Seattle Seahawks. Bears have lost 9 straight. I think they make it 10 straight against Seattle. Seattle's still in the playoff hunt. They got something to play for. The Bears, not so much. The Bears, I feel like their offense shows up for a quarter of each game, and then you don't see them for the rest of the game. Just seems how it is every time I watch the Bears, and I think Seattle will be able to get their offense rolling against the Bears defense. Bears defense historically is pretty good, but like I said, they don't have much to play for anymore. So Seattle will be motivated. They'll come in to Chicago, get this game, and try to keep their playoff hopes alive.
I'm taking Seattle. One, they need this game in order to even have a slight chance. But the Bears just don't show up for like a full half. They don't show up. Caleb Williams out here with like 4 yards in the first half the time. It's just a mess. They also just lost their left tackle. Let me pull up his name. They lost their left tackle, Braxton Jones, for the rest of the season. They've got, at least on their depth chart, it says they got 2 left guards in IR, and their starting one as of right now is questionable. I mean, this is a depleted offensive line. It's not going to help. What's his name? DeAndre Swift has not, looked like how he was recently. The defense has been bad ever since the bye week came back. And look, if Seattle gets a quick start, they're going to win this game pretty easily, I think. But they need to do that. There's a chance Kenneth Walker doesn't play. So, Charbonnet. I'm going to assume Kenneth Walker doesn't play this week. He went out in that game last week with an ankle injury. He didn't practice today. I think Charbonnet is going to be the main back next week. So, for a fantasy point, you might want to start him or claim him if he's somehow not claimed in your league, because he always seems to have a really good fantasy day when Kenneth Walker isn't starting. But Seattle just needs to limit the red zone turnovers, and the Bears are gonna just, I don't even know. They're not going to show up for half a quarter or a half, and it's going to be like every other game where Caleb Williams just throws the ball 40 times because they're down so much, and then it looks like he has an okay stat line at the end of the game. All right, next game we have San Diego at New England.
I'm taking the Los Angeles Chargers. Herbert has been balling. Chargers have just looked pretty good overall, and I think they should be able to take care of the Patriots. Now, Drake May has been playing pretty good under the radar. Not getting much attention, but I think Chargers are gonna be too much for the Patriots. Like I said, I believe the Chargers are basically in the playoffs if they win this game, so huge game for them. Yeah, see if Herbert can do anything in the playoffs, but giving the Chargers here should be a big one for them.
I'm taking the Chargers as well. Although that game against Buffalo for New England, that was a close game. But Josh Allen did not look like the Josh Allen he was playing against. They're on a 5-game losing streak as well. The Chargers just came off I would say it was a pretty big win against Denver on Thursday Night Football. They've got that extra rest as well, the mini bye, you could say. So it's definitely going to help out the Chargers, and I just think they're gonna win. As long as they don't have a debacle on the rushing game, they should be good. Also, I saw something today that J.K. Dobbins, his window for practicing opens today, I think. So, potential J.K. Dobbins comes back as well, which will 100% help out this Chargers run game. The run game has not been that good outside of probably last week with Gus Edwards. So if he plays, it'll be even more of a win for the Chargers. Up next, we have Denver at Cincinnati.
This is one of those games that has big playoff implications. And I think I'm gonna go with the Bengals here. All right. This game would probably be a little closer if it was in Denver, but I believe this is a Cincinnati home game. Bengals are hungry. They want it. Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow have been probably the best duo in the league this year. the Bengals defense can find a way to get a few turnovers and stop Bo Nix, they should win this game. I think they have really good odds, and I'm gonna go with the Bengals here.
Yeah, I'm taking Cincinnati as well. They need to win out to even potentially have a chance, along with a bunch of other things. Look, even though Pat Surtain's good, I don't. The Jamar Chase takeover is going to happen. I mean, his worst game for Jamar Chase's worst game was against Kansas City in week 2, and that was 35 yards. But besides that, I mean, if you look ever since that Baltimore game, the lowest amount of yards he's had is 75 yards, and he hasn't had a touchdown in just one of those games. Multiple touchdowns in more of those games as well. So I don't. Pat Surtain is going to be good. It's going to be a good battle, but dude, I'm a little worried. Like, the Denver defense is supposed to be really good, and they did not prove it last week against the Chargers of all teams. They gave up 34 points. They had a bunch of dumb penalties as well, which cost them, a free kick. It costed them, some drives where they should have ended the drive, but it kept going. So I'm not too confident in that. Chase Brown has been electric as well. So Cincinnati haven't played good at home this entire year, but I think they're going to pull through and win this game. All right, our last Saturday game, we have Arizona at the LA Rams.
I'm taking the LA Rams after Arizona's loss to Carolina. They no longer have anything to play for other than pride. They seem pretty upset with that loss, and I think the Rams, they've been kind of finding the groove. They're winning games, and I think they're gonna find a way to beat Arizona this week. Um, Arizona is so hit or miss, and I think this is just gonna be kind of a miss week for Arizona. They haven't played well as of late at all. I think they've lost like 4 of their last 5 or something like that. So not expecting much from Arizona this week, and I'm taking the Los Angeles Rams.
I'm taking the Rams as well. Like, James Conner questionable. He went out in that game with a knee injury. I think, or it was a knee or an ankle. I don't remember off the top of my
I think
head.
it was knee.
It was knee. Yeah. So if he doesn't play, you know, it's it's going to be worse for the Cardinals. Obviously, they just gave up 36 points to the Panthers. They didn't do good. They gave a bunch of rushing yards to Chuba Hubbard. I think it was over 150 just to him alone. It's been a rough go recently for the Cardinals. I don't think Kyler hasn't been playing that good recently as well, so I don't think that helps either. The Rams, on the other hand, they beat the New York Jets. It is the New York Jets, but they beat the Jets. They beat the Niners in that snooze fest. They beat the Bills. They're on a 4-game win streak. Obviously, if they win this game, I'm pretty sure they lock up the NFC West. So, this is a big game for the Rams, pretty much. And I think they're going to get it done. I just don't see, with how the Cardinals have been playing recently, how they're going to stop Kyren Williams or Puka Nacua. So, give me the Rams. All right, now we're on to the Sunday games for this week. We have the Colts at the Giants.
I'm gonna take the Colts here. Giants have been the worst team in the NFL, basically. And I just think Giants, I mean, they're tanking. Drew Lock is the king of tanking apparently now, so he's gonna lead this team to another loss, so they can hopefully draft maybe Travis Hunter, maybe Shador Sanders. We'll see what happens, but either way, Jonathan Taylor's gonna have a big game. Giants' run defense is one of the worst in the whole NFL. And I think that was their formula of success against the Titans. I think we'll see a similar game out of Jonathan Taylor. Probably not 3 touchdowns over 200 yards, but probably still a big day from him. And yeah, I'm taking the Colts.
Yeah, I'm taking the Colts as well. The Giants. Yeah, I mean, I said this earlier in that Penix debut when we recapped it. Bijan, 22 carries, 94 yards against the Giants, 4.3. He had 2 touchdowns. They had 127 on the ground as well. So the Colts, like you said, and what I was thinking, Jonathan Taylor's going to have another massive game, probably over 100 yards. Will he score 2, 3, 4 touchdowns? Maybe not, maybe 2, but he's going to have a big game. It's going to be another one of those games where Anthony Richardson probably doesn't need to throw the ball a lot. So, yeah, just give it to Jonathan Taylor. He's going to cook. The Giants, I mean, the Colts almost lost that huge lead against the Titans. They gave up 30 points to the Titans. The Giants, they might have some big plays and stuff, but I don't know, man. It's been tough sledding for the Giants outside of a couple, players. Yeah, I don't know. The run game hasn't been going there. The offensive line doesn't help out with that either. The Colts didn't give up a whole lot of rushing yards as well, so that's going to be tough again. And, the Colts just gave up a bunch of receiving yards, but who knows? Jonathan Taylor is going to be the X factor in this game. Give me the Colts. All right, up next we have the New York Jets at Buffalo.
I'm taking the Buffalo Bills. I think it's a pretty obvious pick here. This game's in Buffalo. Buffalo Bills are humming, looking like a pretty solid Super Bowl contender, and I don't think this game will be close. Give me the Buffalo Bills.
I'm taking the Bills. The Jets just lost to the Rams. I mean, Rodgers played okay, but like when he needed to make big plays, he didn't connect with his wide receivers. Garrett Wilson wants out of New York. I don't blame him. Put him on the Chiefs or something, honestly. Like, just get him out of there. He doesn't want to be there. It's rough for the Jets. They need a clean house. They probably need to, sell the team, move to another country, restart completely. I'm taking the Bills. I think Josh Allen's going to come back to, his quote unquote MVP front runner form. And it's going to be all Buffalo this game. Up next, we have Las Vegas at New Orleans.
Yeah, this game is a little interesting. I don't know if Derek Carr will be back or not for this game, but either way, I think the Saints win this game. Raiders have just been historically bad all year, outside of Brock Bowers, so I think that trend continues. Uh, Kamara will probably be back for this game for the Saints, so that'll be a huge pickup for them. And yeah, I don't know. I just feel like it's in New Orleans, so that definitely helps New Orleans, given their crowd and stuff. So I'm gonna take the Saints. Raiders have been trash. So that's my reasoning there.
I'm taking the Raiders. This is definitely this is going to be a weird game, weird pick. I'm kind of going off Spencer Rattler playing. And, even if Kamara does play, there's been games where Kamara is like the only player on that team or it's supposed to be the X factor, and it's just not worked. Like he hasn't been that guy. He's just been bottled up by the team. I mean, I wouldn't say the Raiders have momentum, but it feels like every Raiders win is a big win for them. They just got a big win over the Jaguars. It is the Jaguars, though. Brock Bowers, another master class of a game. He's probably going to have a big game again. Are we surprised? No, because he's about their only good wide receiver. New Orleans, I don't know what to think of New Orleans. Maybe they'll have Marquez Valdes-Scantling back. Maybe they'll have Derek Carr back as well. Maybe they'll have Kamara back as well. I don't know, though. I'm going to bank on at least one, if not two of them aren't playing next week. And the defense, when the offense struggles, the defense can only do so much. And look, if Brock Bowers takes control of this game, I don't know how they stop him. So I'm going with the Raiders. I don't think anyone's going to watch this game. This is going to be like a 6-10 game, or for some reason each team's going to drop like 35 points. All right, up next we have Carolina at Tampa Bay.
I'm taking the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They need this win desperately for a playoff spot. And Carolina has been good as of late, but still a divisional matchup. Will be a close game. It'll probably come down to the wire, but I think Baker will be able to pull it out somehow with Mike Evans going for over 200 plus yards on the Carolina Panthers, so he can hit that 1,000-yard season once again, and should be a big day for the Bucks. I think they'll get it done.
I'm taking the Bucks. Mike Evans is at, let's do a little math here real quick. Mike Evans is at 818 yards, so he needs 182 yards, and he's got 2 games left, which he needs about 91 yards a game. I think he's going to get more than 91 yards against the Panthers, 100%. Last time these two teams played, he had 118 and a touchdown. I think he does something similar to that. Also, the Panthers have one of the worst rush defenses in the league. James Conner had 100 yards before halftime. Probably would have had 200, honestly, if he didn't get hurt. Bucky Irving, last time these two teams played, 152 yards on the ground. So I'm expecting Bucky Irving to have another massive game. And the Bucks, I know they just lost to the Cowboys, but honestly, you got to give credit to the Cowboys. That was probably the most grit they put into a game since like probably 1980 or whenever the last time they won a Super Bowl. So whatever got into them, but I think Baker bounces back, even though he didn't have a bad game. It was more on Rashard White fumbling. But I think they bounce back. Bucky Irving, big game. Mike Evans, big game. Baker, probably multiple touchdown passes. And, I would say the Panthers can possibly go toe-to-toe with this team, but, all it's going to take is a fumble or a Bryce Young mistake to put the Panthers in catch-up mode. And also, last time these two teams played, Chuba Hubbard only had 43 yards. So stifling Bucks defense, especially in the run. Give me the Bucks. Up next for maybe the greatest game of the week, the Tennessee Titans at the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah, so obviously since this is the greatest game of the week, should be in prime time. Probably gives Thursday Night Football vibes, but it's actually not. So I'm gonna go with. This is hard. I think any team could win this either way, and I wouldn't care. So give me the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think Brian Thomas Jr. He's had a great season. Over 1,000 yards on the season. I think they'll keep feeding him. Stat padding him basically for his rookie year, and should be a Jacksonville dub maybe. I don't really know, but that's what my guts tell me.
I'm going with Tennessee. I picked them last week. They almost won. Well, it looked like they were going to get blown out, and that was going to be a bad pick, but they almost won. I don't know why I'm going with them again. The last time these two teams played, this game was 10-6. That's right, 10-6. Will Levis played in that game. Mason Rudolph is playing in this game. I think that's going to be the difference in this game. Also, Tajay Spears, for whatever reason, has been on some legacy runs the past 2 weeks. 4 touchdowns in the past 2 games. I think he's going to get another touchdown, especially if they have to pass the ball a lot. Mac Jones played in this game as well. He had 2 interceptions. Brian Thomas Jr., potentially 100 yards. He had 86 last time these two teams played. I mean, I'm not really sure, Mac Jones's, thinking process, because I wouldn't say he wasn't force feeding Brian Thomas, but I was getting a little worried there that Brian Thomas was going to have no yards last game. So hopefully that doesn't happen again. This game, it's going to be 32 to like 30, or it's going to be another like 10-6 game. I think the Titans are going to get this one, but I don't know who's watching that. I'm going to genuinely be honest. All right, up next, this game got flexed into the 1 o'clock slot. We have the Dallas Cowboys at the Eagles.
Will be interesting, depending on if Hurts plays or not. Right now, I look at this Eagles team, and I think they might be able to get it done either way. So giving me the Philadelphia Eagles, Saquon, he's chasing that rushing record, and so he needs a good game for that to happen. I think they'll feed Saquon, and I think that will help them beat the Dallas Cowboys. Give me Philly.
I'm taking Philadelphia. These two teams played earlier in Dallas. Eagles won 34-6. Cooper Rush had 45 yards passing. I don't think that happens again, but I will say the Eagles are going to win this game pretty easy. It's going to be in Philly, especially if Jalen Hurts plays. This game might be a little closer. It will be closer if Kenny Pickett plays, but I think Jalen Hurts is going to come back this week. So, especially if he comes back, he's going to win. Saquon Barkley, though, last time these two teams played, only had 66 yards on the ground. So, but he did average almost 5 yards a carry. So maybe they get him more carries this game and whatnot. AJ Brown had a monster game as well that game. So I'm taking the Eagles. It's in Philly, especially if Jalen Hurts is back, even though the Cowboys just won a game against the Bucs. I don't think that's going to happen, especially in Philly. Up next, we have Miami at Cleveland.
I'm going to take the Miami Dolphins. Cleveland team has been terrible, especially with DTR at quarterback. Did not look very good last week. Giving Miami, they've been on a heater as of late. They're figuring out their offense. Their defense is playing good. Still in the playoff hunt, so they need to win. Miami's going to win this game.
I'm taking Miami as well. Yeah, they beat the Niners. Tyreek Hill just has to figure out, those drops. He dropped a couple touchdowns. I think one of them would have been like a 70-yard touchdown. So if he figures that out, this team's going to be dangerous, especially coming towards the end of the season. Will they make the playoffs, though? I don't think so either way. But the Browns, that game was pretty bad. The defense didn't look the best. Most of Jerome Ford's yards came off like a 65-yard rush. And then Dorian Thompson-Robinson putting up Jameis Winston-esque stats, 2 interceptions. But I think, I've said this before, I know Jameis throws a lot of interceptions, but I think this team, the Cleveland Browns, have more of a potential to win with Jameis at quarterback than DTR. So give me Miami. Their defense has been good, especially in the run defense. And if they have to make DTR pass, he's definitely going to make a couple of mistakes, and Miami's going to win this pretty easy. Also, last week, Chase Brown had 91 yards on the ground, averaged over 5 yards a carry. Devon Achane's probably going to have a monster game like he did last week. All right, up next, Green Bay at Minnesota.
This is probably the actual game of the week. Both of these teams looking like playoff teams. This game is in Minnesota. But I'm going to take the Green Bay Packers. Maybe a little bit biased, but last time we played in Minnesota, we beat the Vikings. I think it's be a similar trend. Jair Alexander will lock up Justin Jefferson, as he always does, because he's the GOAT. But either way, it'll be a fun game to watch. Will be a close one, big divisional matchup. And I think this will show if the Packers can hang with the big teams and if the Vikings are frauds. So we'll see what happens.
I'm taking the Vikings. Last time, this was a good game last time these two teams played. The Vikings won by 2 points in Green Bay. Green Bay came back, though. They scored 22 in the fourth quarter of that game. Jefferson, he had solid stats that game. Aaron Jones had a pretty good game on the ground. And, Jordan Love had a big game as well. I feel like this game is going to be a toss-up. It's going to come down to interceptions. The key in that game was Jordan Love had 3 interceptions that game. I think that's going to be the name of the game. These offenses can go toe-to-toe with each other, but the difference in this game is going to be a penalty that keeps a drive going or a turnover. And, the Vikings, they're on a bit of a winning streak. Actually, they're on a big winning streak. They haven't lost a game since they played the Rams. I think they're going to win this game again, and they're going to need to win this game as well if they want a chance at the 1 seed, which, who knows? Not saying it's going to happen, but there's a chance they could get the 1 seed. All right, up next is our Sunday night football game that got flexed to it. Atlanta at Washington.
Yeah, this game has big playoff implications. But give me Washington. Washington has been the better team all season. Jaden Daniels is the better rookie QB from what we've seen so far. So should be a big game from him. I don't really expect much out of the Falcons. I think they're lucky to even be at 8-7 at this point in the season. So give me the Commanders. Should be a big day for Jaden Daniels and company.
Yeah, I'm taking Washington. The Falcons played good last week, but they played the Giants. And the Commanders do not have the same offense as the Giants. We just saw the Commanders come back against, probably one of the best defenses and one of the best teams in the NFL this year. So, look, they're coming off a big win. They got a ton of momentum. Jane Daniels is cooking right now. This is going to be a big game for him, I think. It's going to be a big game for him. It's going to be a big game for Terry McLaurin. Running-wise, I don't know. Jane Daniels is probably going to lead the team in rushing. Brian Robinson Jr. cannot fumble. Definitely sold me with 2 or 3 fumbles, however many he had last week. But that's going to be that. Give me Washington that game. It might be a close game. It's going to be, I feel like they're hyping this game too much up a little bit, but it's going to be Washington through and through. Our last game of Week 17, Monday Night Football, we have Detroit at San Francisco.
Give me the Detroit Lions. This San Francisco team is taking a beating this year. Trent Williams is out for this game. All their other stars are out for this game, so it's probably going to be the same story for the Niners as it has been all season. And, Detroit, even with the absence of David Montgomery, they looked pretty good last week. So give me the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, I'm taking the Lions here as well. They won against the Bears. The Niners, nothing too much on the Lions. The Bears, however, I think Javon Achane and Jahmyr Gibbs are similar. Devon Achane, 120 yards, over 7 yards a carry against the Niners last week. Led his team in receiving as well. Jahmyr Gibbs is going to have a big game. He's going to have a big game. The Niners, Debo had a quote-unquote comeback game. He played good for the first time this year pretty much, but I just don't see, maybe they get Garendo back this week as well, the Niners, but yeah, I don't know. I think this Lions offense is too powerful, and all it's going to take is a big pass from Jared Goff or a big run from Jahmyr Gibbs to, not even put the icing on the cake, but to just, essentially end the game, even if it's, a 2-score game. Those are our Week 17 predictions. Who do you have as, an auto lock for this week?
I think my auto lock for this week is Miami against Cleveland. Might not be the most obvious auto lock, but I feel like this is an auto lock either way. This Cleveland offense is not going to be able to get anything done. So, yeah, that should be pretty much an auto lock.
Ooh, mine? Ooh, let's see. I think I'm going to go. This might be a weird one as well. Give me the Chargers against the Patriots. I know it's in New England, but they might be getting J.K. Dobbins back. I don't know if they get him back for this week, but, the Chargers just put up 37 or 34 points on one of the best defenses in the NFL. I think they're going to win this game pretty easily. All right, those are our auto locks. We are going to move on now to fantasy football for this week. First week of the playoffs, or however you want to put it, the first round of the playoffs, I should say. Obviously, we still have this Green Bay game, this Green Bay New Orleans game to go through, but I mean, unless I lose 97 points from Tucker Kraft in this game, I win. I have a 96 and change point lead with Kraft still to play.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I don't think my opponent has anyone left. Let me double check that real quick.
No, it
But
does not look
I have
like
officially
it.
won. I've officially won the first round. I put up 291 points, kind of crazy, over 145 points per week. It's pretty good average there. Um, you know, I rode a lot of momentum from Jonathan Taylor and Jahmyr Gibbs last week. They kind of carried my whole fantasy team, but we'll take it. Win's a win, and now I can compete for first here. Coming up next week.
Yeah, I mean, I have 301 as of right now. This Green Bay game just started. But, I mean, that first week for me was absolutely, just insane. I put up, almost 200. I put up over 170 points that week. Even this week, without any points from Kraft, I still win by, 2.5 points. So, solid all around. I'm not sure who I'm potentially going to be facing this week or next week, however you want to put it. Although I am a little concerned for my team because I got James Conner questionable, Tyrone Tracy questionable. So I honestly, for some reason, if James Conner is in play, I'm probably going to have to pick up Trey Sermon, I think his name is, off waivers. So yeah, I'm a little worried about my running back situation if they can't play, but for most part, my team's looking good. They showed up at the end of the year, after I got eliminated from the playoffs, but we're still playing for pride.
Yeah, let's see. So I think my team, we should be pretty solid for next week. I don't think I'm gonna make any roster changes actually. The only thing I might do is switch out one of my wide receivers and put Bucky Irving in as the flex instead. So I sat him on my bench this week and he played a pretty good game against Dallas. So missed out on those points, but it's whatever. So yeah, I'll probably start Bucky Irving next week. Especially since he's going up against that Carolina rush defense, which is probably the worst in the NFL. And I think he'll have a big week. So yeah, I'm just looking forward to next week and hope we have a pretty big performance.
Moving on, I do have a quote unquote fun question for us. Being that it's Christmas time, it can be a player, it can be a team, it can be an organization, it can be whatever you want. But give me a whatever. Give me someone who I would say is on your nice list, had a good year, maybe an unexpected good year, something like that. And then give me someone who, is on the quote unquote naughty list, just bad year, didn't perform to their standards. It could be a whole organization if you want to do that as well. But yeah, just give me one for each.
All right, so nice list. I'm gonna go with my boy Josh Jacobs. over 1,100 yards on the season. He's had a huge season, big bounce back year for him. He's been a huge playmaker in Green Bay's offense, and he's really done a nice job this year. So he's on my nice list. My naughty list for this year would be the whole Jets organization. Um, they're a mess. I mean, from picking players based on Madden ratings to firing their head coach 5 games into the season. I mean, their whole organization is a mess. They need to sell the team, move on. They need, I mean, I don't even know what they need. They just need to, maybe they should just sell the whole organization. I don't even know. So, yeah, Jets are definitely on my naughty list.
I was thinking, I mean, you could do so many people. My naughty list, I'm going to do the whole New York Giants organization outside of Malik Neighbors and Tyrone Tracy. I mean, no one was expecting them to be insane this year, the Giants, but you released Daniel Jones, who you paid a ton of money for. You're tanking, but like, dude, you can't even describe how bad the Giants are outside of those two players, and I don't think it gets fixed this week. They should have listened. The GM or whoever it was should have listened to the kid's son, drafted Jane Daniels. They let Barkley walk, and the owner's like, I hope he doesn't go to Philly. Goes to Philly. Like, the Giants need to, like, restart the whole thing. For my nice list, I mean, this could be so many people, but I think I'm going to go with Brian Thomas Jr. I'll give it to him. I don't think people, right, Malik Neighbors overshadowed him a little bit, but I don't think I think people were expecting the Jaguars to be a little better. 2, he's pretty much the lone bright spot on this team. Over 1,000 yards this season as well as a rookie. If you compare him to the, like, just NFL in general, he's, I want to say, yeah, I mean, he's 6th in receiving yards and 5th in touchdowns. So, like, not bad for a rookie. I'll give it to him. He's the only, good player on that team. I don't know. Do you have a question for this week, or are we going to wrap it up right here?
I do not have a question, unfortunately.
That is all good. Thank you guys for tuning in. We had to do this one on Monday, Christmas on Wednesday, Christmas Eve tomorrow. It's going to be busy. We got games on Wednesday as well, so we couldn't push it back. We did it a week forward, but I appreciate everyone who tunes in. We'll be back on Tuesdays, probably next week. Thank you guys for watching, though. If you guys are watching over on YouTube, make sure you guys subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the other episodes when they do go ahead and get uploaded. If you're watching over on Twitch, make sure you guys follow us both, twitch.tv/KnockdownNico and twitch.tv/Press6. But thank you guys for tuning in, and we will see you guys at the end of week 17. Have a Merry Christmas.